loyalty data without a loyalty program.
That is a really good way to put it. We have essentially allowed retailers to go beyond their loyalty program and massively expand their first party data. In some
Yep.
cases, 3 to 4xing it.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Retail Perch, and we have people who are all across the globe here today. But I know last conversation, Gary, we had with Flora was a really fun one. If you guys didn't catch that episode, you should. I
Yes.
think we talked about some things that we hadn't talked about in a while in the Retail Perch. But today, I think we're going to be talking about a topic that a lot of retailers are very interested in, and it's the buzz. It's what the market's all about today. We're going to be talking about retail media and
Yep.
specifically data that's required to power up retail media effectively and intelligently. And we have a phenomenal guest. Gary, anything else before we get started here?
No, I don't think so, but I'm looking forward to this conversation because I think there's my conversations with retailers. I think there's still a lot of misperception, misunderstanding around what's required to do retail media, or at least do it well. So I think this will be a great conversation.
Yeah, so we hope we can kind of clear up some misconceptions, understand exactly what it takes to be successful in retail media. And we have with us none other than, well, so he's a very humble man. He's obviously very accomplished, but I think we're going to have a great conversation here. Steve Dietch, welcome to the Retail Perch.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, and if you can give us a quick background of, your career, how you wound up doing what you do and what you do currently, that'd be great.
That's sure. So, as we were chit-chatting before, I actually grew up in Southern California, went to undergrad there, and then ventured very close to where Gary was going to school, where I went to BU for graduate school. Believe it or not, it's hard to believe that I actually have undergrad and graduate degrees in computer science back when maybe it was a little odd, way back in the day. After finishing school, I actually spent 6 years in Sweden working for a
Mm,
few companies, including IBM as an engineer and in the
nice.
business development. And then realized was put in I guess, uncomfortable situations where I had to make choices where I was highly ill-equipped to make those, making business decisions. So either it was continuing down the technical path or going back to business school. So I chose to go back to business school and I went to Wharton for 2 years in Philadelphia. Nothing better in life than after working for a while, going back to school. I would highly recommend it to anybody. For you kids out there, you really appreciate it when you go back. Believe it or not, you will realize that quickly. And then after Wharton, spent a few years in the management consulting business with Booz Allen, and then up in the Bay Area. And then after that, spent a long eclectic career at various iterations or gyrations of Hewlett Packard. First Tandem, if folks remember that, Compaq,
Yep.
Hewlett Packard, and then ultimately when HP split into two, HP Inc., no pun intended, the PC and the printer side, as well as HP Enterprise. I went over to HP Enterprise and was a CMO for a couple divisions, ran business development, was in product marketing, and ultimately my last job there was running a $3 billion service provider business
Mm,
globally. And then probably what, 8 years ago. As with anybody that's in the Bay Area, you're always hearing about startups, you know, and I was always on the end of startups coming to us at HP and saying, hey guys, this is always interesting, but how hard can this really be? And so in 2017, I decided I was going to venture out because if you live in the Bay Area, you got to do it at least once
mm.
to see what all that talk is all about,
Yep.
right? And what you quickly realize is that it's really hard. It's really, really hard from a
Yep.
variety of reasons. And most startups are never going to see the light of day from success and an exit or an IPO or whatever you want to talk about. I was followed that same path. I had as running sales and marketing for two startups over successive years. We ran out of money and shut our shutters up. And it was when you look up back on it, you know exactly why. You weren't asking the right questions. You knew we were going down. Was I unique enough to differentiate myself in the market? But then in the third try, which was about 5 years ago. I did ask her the right questions going in, and I ended up at Bridg,
Awesome.
where I am currently still at this point the chief revenue officer, and I helped run us through the acquisition by Cardlytics back in 2021. And I guess the rest is history now as we continue to leverage our very, very unique identity resolution capabilities, both directly to support the benefits of a retailer, a brick and mortar retailer, but also to support solutions, including retail media, whether that be another retailer or what we've launched, Rippl, which is another really interesting take on retail media. It's fitting, it's addressing a challenge that's been around for a while where folks didn't really understand if there was a solution to it.
Hmm.
Interesting.
So,
No,
Steve,
fascinating. Go ahead, Gary.
if you would, maybe give us a little bit more detail around Bridg and then Rippl, what each of them focuses on, just so our audience understands.
Sure, sure. So Bridg, who was founded by a former Google engineer back 12, 13 years ago, asked a really simple question. Why is it that if you're Amazon, you understand, you know everybody and you understand exactly what you're buying, but if you're a brick and mortar retailer, think quick service restaurant, fast casual, a grocer, a convenience store, a pharmacy on the front end, sports and live entertainment venue, a dollar store, you struggle to
Mm-hmm.
understand everybody that's coming in and what they're doing. So what did folks like that do? They created loyalty programs in exchange for a
Yep.
little personal information. Now, as a brick and mortar retailer, I understand, Gary, you came in, you identified yourself. I know what you bought. I know your shopping habits. I can create a much more intimate relationship. I can reach you on own channels. I can understand customer lifetime value. That's fantastic. But what about everybody else? What about everybody else that's not part of your loyalty or rewards program? And that varies across segments. Think quick service restaurant, where in some cases it's in the single digits from the
Right.
ability to identify transactions, to
Yep.
supermarkets and grocers that are in the 90s because they have this massive loyal following and they require you to swipe your card or type in your
Right.
phone number. So
Yep.
what Bridg did is we built a platform that allows for the identification of an in-store customer based on point of sale data, a very unique approach to identity resolution. So what we do, and let's give an example. So, Shekar, I'm not going to name you probably love going in to get a burger or a taco every once in a while. You go into your favorite burger place and you go in and you buy a cheeseburger and fries and a small diet drink and you swipe your Visa debit card and you walk out. Didn't show anything, didn't identify myself. That entity, that QSR, does not know who you are. They're not allowed to know who you are. You haven't opted in. You haven't shown anything. You're not using the app. So it's lost. You are essentially a part of that unknown universe to that, which can create all sorts of problems. If that's a massive proportion of your overall customers,
Yep.
that's going to create biased decision making. It's, are you really, where are you going? Can you reach? Can you create intimate relationships with 60, 70, 80%, 90% of your customer base? But with Bridg, when you go in and swipe your Visa debit card, we are getting that transaction directly from our clients, and we are breaking that transaction into signals. Think tender information. Think the first six, last four. Think cardholder name. Think location. Think about 80 signals off that transaction and bumping it up against a proprietary database that we've been building for the last 12 years that, for all intent and purposes, contains the offline identities of every adult in the United States. So we're looking at that card information and we're going, that is Shekar. He came in. We're pretty confident that that's him. If
Yep.
so, we're going to create a profile of you for that burger retailer or that burger QSR that contains all of your item level purchase history from that visit. And we're going to append demographics, socioeconomic, and lifestyle attributes, about 140 of them.
Yep.
And every time you now come in and you're using, irrespective of what card you're using or what location, if we can identify you based on the information you provided when you bought that chicken sandwich, Could be a Visa card one day, could be a MasterCard, could be American Express, could be 3 different locations. There's only going to be one profile of Shekar for that burger joint. And
Yep.
now that burger joint has the ability to use that to create a single source of truth across your loyalty and non-loyalty. They are identical. The only difference now is your loyalty, you can hit them on own channels because they have opted in to give you PII. But
Mm-hmm.
what we've done with the non-loyalty is we've wrapped an anonymous ID around Shekar for that burger joint. So Shekar to that burger joint now is Bridg 1234 or grocer or
Yep.
convenience store or whatever. And we've
Right.
Yep.
mapped that anonymous ID out into the digital universe. So that Bridg ID maps to a Ramp ID or a Meta ID for Facebook or a
Yep.
Google ID or a TradeBiz. So I now
And other physical stores or locations that he goes to.
well, in that case, for a retailer specific, that data is only for them. So I now
Okay.
have a single view of Gary across my, if he's going to any of my 7,000 locations.
Got it.
Yep.
And I know exactly what you're doing, your exact purchase history. I know if you're married. I know if you're single. I know if you own a house. I know if you like NASCAR. I have all this stuff. I know if you're a vegan, 140 attributes. But what the most important thing is, I know your item level purchased history longitudinally the previous 2 years, and every day
Yep.
that gets up. And now I have that for insights and analytics, targeting, and measurement, even if I'm not part of our loyalty program. That is Bridg's superpower, the ability to
Okay.
identify the unknown individual that goes into a physical location.
Got it.
Very, very
Okay.
unique approach to this. So we work with super large QSRs and retailers across the country to be able to do this.
Yep.
We're not a household name, nor will we probably be. We're in
Yep.
the background.
So loyalty data without a loyalty program.
That is a really good way to put it. We have essentially allowed retailers to go beyond their loyalty program and massively expand their first party data. In some
Yep.
cases, 3 to 4xing it
Okay.
Got it.
right there. So that's Bridg. Think about that.
And is there a probability component to the accuracy of that data, or is it 100%?
No, it's a really good question. So we're taking in POS data from our clients on a daily basis. We're also taking in customer attributes, their loyalty files also, because we want to know, are they a loyalty customer already? Because there's some interesting thing there. So when we do our identification, there's a sequencing in the algorithms in our machine learning to look at things. So there are determinists. We go from highly deterministic down to probabilistic, and there's confidence scores and all that. So there's a range here. But it's interesting because, and it's a really good point, the one thing that you actually should reflect on as well, there are a lot of people that are part of a loyalty program that don't identify themselves when they go in. Think about just our own behavior,
Yeah.
the three of us. You may go in someplace and be in a real rush. I know when I go to the pharmacy or I go to supermarket and I buy an apple or something and they go, hey, do you have a loyalty? I'm in a rush. Don't worry. Okay, never mind. Gladys behind the counter scans the card for you, right?
Right.
With Bridg, in some case, well, we know from our clients' information that sometimes 30% of their loyalty transactions are not they're not self-identifying themselves. But given that Bridg can sequence through a set of algorithms, we actually, and we're identifying based on the tender used. If you're a loyalty member, you come in and do that, there's a high likelihood that we're actually going to identify that transaction associated with Steve. I'm a loyalty member. In most cases, that transaction would be lost because I didn't self-identify. But given that we've identified it by the tender, we're going to attach that transaction to the loyalty profile.
Got it. No, very cool. I think that's you're filling a gap, much needed gap, right? In trying
That's
to identify shoppers. And I guess the whole point is, how do you then effectively engage and build a relationship with these shoppers and empower retailers to do so, right?
That is correct. And that, now, so if I'm a retailer, large QSR, large grocer, large convenience store, whatever it is, large apparel retailer, large sporting goods, retailer, um, I'm going to use that for my own insights and analytics. Now I have, like I said, my single source of truth across loyalty and non-loyalty down to the SKU or item level that I can use for modeling super improved segmentation. And I can look at loyalty, non-loyalty. And Gary, to your point, for all intent and purposes now, I know as much about my non-loyalty as I know for my loyalty. I
Right.
essentially have stealth
Yep.
loyalty almost, right?
Yep.
Without the overhead. Now, I can't target my non-loyalty folks on my own channels because they haven't opted in, but I can target them anywhere in the digital universe where, you know, where it doesn't require
Yes.
them to have
Yeah.
opted in, like so the
Got it.
social side or connected TV or things like that.
Yeah.
It's super interesting and compelling. And to your point, what we've done, so that's from a retailer. Now I can go insights, audience creation, targeting, and measurement. What we've done starting, let's call it 2 years ago, we were talking with regional grocers and we were looking at this and one, they had their own challenges of, hey, I need to expand my first party data. But the second challenge was as a regional grocer or as an independent convenience store, I do not have the scale or the technology know-how or the resources to stand up my own retail media network. I don't. Let alone attract CPG and brand investment because of that lack of scale. Nor if I'm a
Right.
large CPG, I don't have the resources to be engaging with all of these smaller retailers. So we went around and talked to a lot of regional grocers and independent convenience stores, partners that would help us there. And we said, hey, what happens if we first and foremost help maximize your first party data, similar to what we with Bridg technology, expand it there beyond loyalty. And then understanding still you're not going to be big enough, bind all of you together into a single network, a single platform that creates the scale that would attract national retail media dollars. And
Yep.
that's what we've done with Rippl. Rippl is essentially now the largest consortium of regional grocers and independent convenience in the country with the same level of data fidelity that you get with Bridg technology, individual shopper profiles with SKU level data and all those attributes. And today we have 140 million unique shoppers on the platform available for CPGs.
Wow.
That in a
And
hard to reach consumer audience that are kind of forgotten from a retail
Yep.
media perspective.
yeah, and with all the data you have, you're able to provide the advertisers full attribution, right? Because you can measure every point of that campaign.
That is correct, whether you're loyalty or non-loyalty. So we have 140 million individual deterministic purchasers. So if I'm a CPG brand, I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, hey, give me everybody in this particular category or this brand or whatever. I'm going to get 3.2 million, whatever it ends up being, carbonated beverage buyers. I can decide where I want that audience sent. I'm going to send it to the trade desk. Great. It ends up in their seat, their agency, or their internal organizations. They go and activate. And then to your point, Gary, where available, we're going to get the exposure data back at the individual level because we're going to
Yeah.
translate, let's call it a UID 2.0 into a Bridg ID. And so we can marry ad exposure data to the actual individual transaction, whether they're loyalty or not.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is the difference, Steve, between people who use a platform like Ripple and those who do not? I mean, how do you differentiate and say, hey, here's the impact of working with a data-driven, approach which has identity resolution built into it versus somebody who's just spraying and praying and doing traditional targeting?
Well, I think the first and foremost aspect of it is with Bridg and Ripple powered by Bridg, you have that massive expansion of first party data, real shoppers. There is that 140 million. It's a great question, Shekar. The 140 million individual shoppers are not modeled. They're actual shoppers. So in
Right.
many
Yeah.
cases, if you look at others that are claiming, hey, I've got these huge audiences, the vast majority of the audience is modeled off of a seed. You can use us for seeds as well, but those 140 million are actually deterministic purchasers, first party data that we've aggregated together, all normalized, identified those from our retail partners as well as that independent convenience. That's the one. Then you can talk about data fidelity. You're getting at SKU level. You're getting attributes associated with that, whether you're loyalty or non-loyalty. You're getting data refreshed daily. So this is not, it's not panels and surveys and
Right.
model data,
It's
and you're
fresh
not
data.
getting it a
It's
week
actual
or a
fresh
month
data.
later. You're getting 140 million SKU level deterministic purchasers on a daily basis. Think about what you can do, whether you're a retailer, non-retail media, or you're looking as a brand to access it, or I'm a retailer that wants to launch or enhance my retail media activities.
Yeah.
Got it.
So how would you compare your data and measurement capabilities and so on to someone like a Kroger?
Yeah. Well, hats off to Kroger. I think it's public information that, they can identify 90+% of transactions
Yes.
because
Yeah.
people are identifying. So it's a really good example of an organization that's done a fantastic job of cultivating that culture and getting people to join the loyalty program. So as long as you're getting 90 something percent, I would be the first one to admit we're not really going to help Kroger. But for every other supermarket in the United States that varies all over the place, we've got supermarkets that have very low loyalty penetration, very low
Yeah.
loyalty penetration. And we've got some that are in the 70%, but they value the fact that we can plug the gap between the 70 and the 100.
Right. Yeah.
So, and
Yep.
grocery is the one where loyalty is particularly high. If you look at
Right.
quick service restaurants, you look at other retailers out there, it tends to be so-so.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And no
And
question
there's
about it.
fatigue also. How many loyalty programs do you guys join, and are you
Yeah.
really remembering?
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, maybe, if you think about the one that I probably use the most, it's Starbucks because they've kind of made it a de facto payment methodology, right?
That's right.
Um, apart from my airlines and my hotel, I really don't use my loyalty
Yeah.
else, right?
That's
Apart from
right.
my supermarket, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So and that's impressive. Number one, Steve. I think because I think what retailers really struggle with is there's just so much talk about retail media network, right? And there's so much talk about the amount of money that the CPGs are pumping into it because obviously they're trying to reach consumers. We're no longer watching linear TV, and we got to figure out how to reach the customer anymore. So when it comes to that, how should retailers be thinking about retail media networks? I mean, is it a mechanism to drive additional revenue, or is it as a way to grow their fundamental business? I mean, that's where I kind of get conflicted sometimes, internally, where I
Yeah.
feel that some retailers are feeling, hey, there's more dollars that we're leaving on the table when I running a retail media network, but and some of them I feel are forgetting the basics of their business, which is people coming into the stores and actually buying product, and that's how you're supposed to be making money, not
Yeah.
That's
just
right.
selling data.
It's
So,
it's it yeah, it's a new version, Shaker, of retailers in the past that would spend more time collecting checks from their vendors and the CPGs to put an item on the front page of their ad, not really caring or thinking about what their customers actually may want to buy.
yeah, and I guess my question is really, is this just a new version of that, or is there something else to it that's changing with how we access information and how you need to communicate with your shoppers? And if you're not in the retail media game, you're essentially losing touch with your shoppers and not having the same level of engagement that you need to have. Uh, you know, People aren't printing and distributing weekly ads anymore because distribution is dropping off, right? Nobody wants to read the weekly circular. So, I'm just trying to figure out how should retailers be thinking about retail media and investment into that?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of, maybe there's not a lot of confusion, but I think there might be some disillusionment about exactly what it is and what it was and where's it going and so forth. I think realistically, if you look at it, one, it's always about truly understanding the customer base, whether you're a retailer or a retailer partner, a CPG or brand. And what's better than that, that actually first party deterministic shoppers to really understand it. So as a retailer, I understand my customers better, but as a brand, I understand my customers better and what their purchase behaviors. I call it comprehensive intelligence, both purchase and what you like to do when you're not purchasing. So that's one. You want to get closer to understanding exactly what make people tick and what's going to make them happy. And by the way, increase the frequency and the spend associated with whether you're a brand or going into a retailer. Isn't that the whole purpose? Is to get them at the end of the day, you want a satisfied customer. But at the end of the day, most of all the people we're probably listening to your podcast are not 501(c)s. They're not in it for a charitable donation.
Right.
They're
Right.
making these investments to drive traffic and spend in the store or online. So I think you got to remember, I think it's a really good point. You got to remember why you're doing this. But at the same time, and so you want to leverage the investments coming from the CPG and brands to enable that better understanding and greater personalization and
Right.
targeting and understanding the impact of those investments. Because it's come from different buckets, but this one is leveraging first party data. And then the other reason is, look, yeah, data is valuable. I want to monetize my data. If you're one of the big guys, and we know who they are, Walmart Connect, Target, Albertsons Media Collective, Kroger, you're big, you got big scale. You're working with your CPG and your brand partners and non-endemics, and they are going to spend money. But if you're anybody else, don't you want your fair share of it? If you look at US grocery, 30% of US grocery, it's like $250 billion a year, is coming from regional grocers. It's a big number. Like, wouldn't you want your fair share of those national dollars, given you're representing 1/3 in the United States? You know, that not only is you're going to be able to monetize the data, but that investment in media is going to drive actions that drive increased frequency and spend and greater loyalty to your brand. So I
Right.
think there's two ways to look, let alone by having a retail media presence, whether you're your own or joining somebody like Ripple, which we believe is the most efficient way to take advantage of retail media if you're a regional grocer or independent convenience store. Don't you also want to create greater collaboration with your brand, your supplier partners? Here's another way to do that. You know, whether
No,
it's just
I think
business plan or so
I think if you have the right objective, I think this is an incredibly powerful uh, mechanism to do it, right? Because uh, I think there is a I wouldn't say confusion. I'd say there's lack of clarity in the objective of retail media, right? If you're using it to drive smarter engagement with your shoppers, with the end goal is, and not purely to get your fair share of CPG dollars that are being invested in this. I mean, I think
Yeah.
if you're running a business, you're not doing it for charity. You want to take every dollar that's available to you, wherever it's coming from, right? But I think if you do it with the right intention and objective, I think you can win on both fronts, right?
Yeah.
Uh, be a
Yeah.
more valuable partner to the CPGs as well as deliver more value to your customers. I mean, who wouldn't want to do both if it's possible?
Yeah.
Right?
So Steve, do you think, I saw some data recently, I think it was from Acosta, that retail media is going to be like $70 billion this year. It's going to be $100 billion spend 2 years from now. And then I saw some other data that showed that the top four retailers, I think it was Walmart, Kroger, Amazon, I think it was Target, were collecting almost 70% of those dollars. So do you think, even with all your capabilities in the rural network, do you think regional grocers are getting their fair share of that massive spend? Or is
Today
this
they are
still
not.
skewed to the big guys?
Still skewed to the big guys.
And
That
and
was
why do you think that is?
um, it's because of what I mentioned earlier, which was if you're if you're not one of the big guys who has sufficient scale to address a national footprint, um, there isn't an efficiency, there isn't the resources from a CPG or a brand or a non-endemic to make those investments other than with the larger guys, the top five, the top 10 that have that scale. That is exactly, Gary, the impetus, the genesis, the catalyst behind creating this consortium to create enough scale to give the
Yeah.
rest of the folks, in at least in starting with grocery and convenience, their opportunity to take advantage of retail media on that national scale. They can continue to get local and shopper and regional dollars, but those big brand dollars are not
Yeah.
going to come. We're not, they realized, all of them, that it wasn't going to happen unless they bounded together to create that scale and that value proposition that the larger CPGs are looking for.
Okay. And I guess the other question I have for you is, where do you see this whole space going? Where do you see retail media going over the next several years? Just going to continue on as it is, or what do you see happening there?
Yeah, the growth factors are we've all seen them, and things continue to go up and to the right from a growth perspective because people believe, back to Shekar, your comments on, it might be the most efficient way to drive behavioral change, given your understanding it, you know who it is, and you understand exactly what they're buying, and using purchase-based behavior, well, at least my opinion, is quite powerful, and using first-party data, powerful. So I think it will continue to grow up and to the right. I think there are a lot of retail media networks out there, hundreds. So I think with any fragmented environment, it will start to consolidate. Everybody can't be successful. You will not have the scale to succeed. I believe there will be the need for, the big boys aren't going anywhere, but I truly believe there will be a critical need for folks coming together in collaborative environments to create enough girth and scale to provide what the brands and CPGs want from retail media beyond the big guys. So I see the
Yeah.
bigger ones still being big, but I see a series of players and a series of consortiums. I'm betting on ourselves, on Rippl, given what we're doing right now and the scale we have, to be one of those leading players, and addressing the needs of the ecosystem, both from a
Got it.
retailer's need to take advantage of it, both from a monetization and customer engagement perspective based on first party data expansion, and from the brands and the CPGs that need something like this because they need those characteristics or those capabilities that today they've only been getting, or in the past they've only been getting, from the big guys. So
Right,
I don't
right.
see
So,
200. How many there'll be left? Who knows?
uh-huh. So where does I mean, as our lives become increasingly digital or only digital, where does the role of the concern of privacy and customer information kind of fit into this entire landscape? And you know, if for some reason a consumer is listening to this podcast, and they're like, "Oh my God, they're doing all this with my information. What else do I not know that they're doing?" Right? How do we assuage their concerns? Because I'm just wondering if that might be, working against a retailer trying to expand their own loyalty program.
Mhm.
Because now customers may be like, "I don't want to join loyalty program because I know my data is going to be extensively used." And how do we make sure that they feel comfortable that if the data is being used, it's being used to enhance their own experience and nothing else?
Yeah. The first thing to understand, and it's a really pertinent and important question, is um, that everybody should be adhering to privacy regulations and laws that are
Yeah.
evolving very quickly. We take pride in that everything we do adheres to not only federal, but the multitude of state regulations that are constantly changing. You're seeing it every day where, last year it was Washington and Oregon that had, hey, you've got to start excluding this, we'll call it sensitive PII. Or, Virginia's doing something, or there's CPRA in California. So we are constantly staying on top of those regulations and rules to ensure that what we're doing, and I would hope that everybody else that's doing anything in this realm is doing the same thing, that consumers can rest assured that we're not doing anything spooky or not above board that you would not want to tell your mom about, that we're
Yeah.
going there. But it's really, really important because look, things are evolving. Where they're going, really, really interesting to see. But people should not be concerned by what's happening if the folks supplying the services are doing their due diligence, staying on top of regulatory evolution, and all of their products and services adhere to that. Now, we'll follow the bouncing ball as it goes. But right now, we are making sure that anything that we're working with our retail partners, and this is what's interesting is we're not doing anything on our end to enable our retail partners that our retail partners have not approved, and they're adhering to their own state and local regulations. We
No, I
take
think
that
that's
dead
a really
serious.
important point that you make here. So yeah, I mean, I think the world is, I have one last question here, and as I expected, and we will be going over time, but this is a fun conversation. What's the role of Bridg or Ripple in in-store media? Because that seems like it's becoming a huge thing now. You
Yeah.
want to be able to engage shoppers in the store. Walmart's rolled out these connected screens. I think it seems like ESLs are getting into it.
Yeah.
And it seems like a huge move and shift, kind of, instead of just offsite media, in-store media. Where do you see that going?
So it's really interesting how that's evolving. So you're exposing advertisements in the store, whether it's visual or audio. That's a big one as well. You have the ability to tie those exposures to in-store transactions. And we're not delivering in-store retail media, but there are partners out there that could, via collaboration with Bridg, bring data together to tie together that Gary was walking through a physical location, was exposed to an ad, and that information could be tied to a in-store POS transaction to understand did that ad actually get or impact a purchase. Or maybe that person didn't see an ad, so you have somewhat test and control capabilities as well. It's super
Right.
super interesting. That is just, I think, it's at infancy right now of where it's going.
And it seems like it's almost happened, like post-COVID, right? Where obviously during COVID, there was a dramatic increase in e-commerce traffic, and people thought that all groceries are going to move to online, and there was a lot of focus on offsite media and how do I get people digitally when they go to websites. And I think after COVID, I don't think the growth of e-commerce is quite as meteoric as people expected, because I think people wanted to go back to the stores, and now it seems like they're scrambling the other way. Okay, I know people are coming back in the stores, but I have all these digital tools that are available. How do I leverage them in the store? Right.
I think
Yeah.
it's a really
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if you look at the stats, I can't remember what the latest stat is, but everybody thought, retail was going to do a student body left and there was going to be nothing left. Maybe there was a little of that gloom and doom during the pandemic, but you can see, I mean, I can't remember, but on the grocery side or on the convenience side, like no one's not going to the grocery store anymore.
Correct.
Right.
Like
Right.
you'll make some, I mean, I give credit to, the entity delivering groceries and everything. But still, if I'm any indication, and probably you two gentlemen, we're still going to the grocery store.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Yeah.
what we've seen in data, Steve, on our end, is that a bulk of the e-commerce purchases at groceries are coming from people who are also in-store shoppers, and they like the convenience of omni-channel, of multi-channel shopping, right? You don't have exclusive e-commerce shoppers and exclusive in-store shoppers. You have I'd say in some cases 50-60% of your e-commerce volume is actually coming from shoppers who are shopping your store and who
Also
just
in the
like,
store. Yeah.
yeah, and who just like the freedom of being able to shop you any which way they want to shop, right? And yeah, no, this has been a super interesting conversation. Hopefully, I think people who are listening understand, I think, the complexity, and I think the size of the challenge you guys are tackling, which is pretty admirable, because it's not a small challenge, right? To be able to consolidate data coming from multiple sources, normalize it, make it available in a single format to be able to create audiences. Just from a technology perspective, that's a pretty exciting challenge to go after, right? So that's hats off to you guys. So, Gary, anything else?
No, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for joining us. And I think the listeners are really going to learn a lot from this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a
hopefully.
pleasure.
And I hope, and my hope is that, when they think about retail media, they're not just thinking about the CPG dollars that they can attract, but in terms of how can it truly transform the way they connect with their customer effectively, learning more about,
Yes.
all those people that they don't identify, right?
That's
Or
right.
even learning about what do people that we do identify, what, maybe there's other behaviors that we're not considering that we should be when we're targeting these people. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
No,
right.
awesome.
That's
Well,
right.
Steve, thank you so much. I know you're calling in from the land of the midnight sun, so all the way in Stockholm, but appreciate you joining us and sharing your insights.
I loved it. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you so
Thanks
much,
for
sir.
being with us.